Okay, so it might surprise you to know that one of the most common reasons children resist or refuse potty training is because of fear. So you might already know that your child is fearful, anxious, but you may not have realized that this is actually underlying the cause of the problem. Another very common problem is constipation or previous constipation, which can cause fear and anxiety around potty training and also lead to refusal. Then there's temperament, which is the way that your unique child understands and responds to the world. And we know that certain temperaments are more likely to have problems with the common potty training approach that is used these days. And so the potty training approach itself can sometimes actually be the problem. So when you've got a problem like resistance and refusal, then it's pretty stressful. To be honest, most of the parents who come to me for a private consultation are struggling with at least this as one of the elements. And it can make you feel really frustrated and stressed. And I think one of the things that I see a lot is people blaming themselves. And that is hard because nobody's perfect. And I really don't believe that it's parents that are causing a lot of this to happen. I think there's many more reasons for it than you might have kind of thought of already. But you're likely to feel any one of these things. And maybe you've got other people as well telling you what you should be doing or what you should have done. And that kind of conflict is difficult because it stops you from being able to trust your instincts. So you can end up feeling quite uncertain. And I think one of the hardest things is that you can actually end up feeling like you're in a bit of a battle with your child. And that's quite sad and challenging for you as a parent. So one of the things I want to do first is to help you reframe the concept of resistance and refusal, because from my understanding of working with parents over the last 5 years doing consultations is that actually the symptoms that you see, so the behavior that you see of resistance and refusal, or possibly not seeming to care or having loads of accidents and not seeming to care, or maybe even being angry and aggressive. These kind of behaviors that you see are actually symptoms, and it's your child's way of saying that they need help. But when we look underneath of what actually is driving those symptoms, that's where I think the iceberg analogy is quite helpful, because the bits that you don't necessarily see is that fear. And it can be fear of pain or fear of the unknown or fear of accidents. Maybe it can also be children who don't like change or struggle with transitions and processing. It can be about the child needing more control. It could be a sensory issue, whether that's emotional or physical or environmental. And it can also be a need for privacy, which is quite closely tied in for the need for control. So when we think about what's actually going on underneath the symptoms that you see, the causes are the things that we actually need to address in order to be able to prevent and overcome resistance and refusal or the other symptoms that you might be having. So when it comes to fear, then we can see that in behaviors like avoiding. So avoiding using the potty or the toilet, procrastinating sometimes, holding on till the very last minute, or just withholding wee and poo and refusing or resisting the need to go and to do it either in the potty or the toilet or even at all. And I think this is because if you're scared of something, then you'll do whatever you can to avoid that thing from happening. So that means that, children are just going to basically not do any of it. And I think that, when we're adults, that we can rationalize our fear and we can think our way out of it because we're quite logical in the way that we solve problems. But children don't really have this capacity yet. So they just feel the feeling and they respond to that in the best way that they know how. And so it's quite different and it's not necessarily logical. So that's how fear can manifest. And fear is normally about avoiding pain. So this is particularly in the case of children who've had a painful experience before, either because of UTI or previous constipation. So when I say UTI, I mean a urinary tract infection. And therefore, they will try to avoid that pain, or they'll be frightened of experiencing that pain or discomfort. So what they then often do is to try to control things. So they will only wee or poo in a nappy, for example, or they'll only do it in a certain place or a certain position or with a certain person, or maybe they'll do it in one time in one kind of environment, like at home, but not a nursery, or vice versa. Sometimes they will hide and want to be alone so that they can control the experience without any interference. Or maybe they go to somewhere where they feel is safe. And that's definitely the case for a child who will only poo in a nappy. It's normally because it feels safe to do that, and it's what they know, and it's predictable. Therefore, it's okay, and it reduces that fear. The other thing can happen is that they'll deny quite often what they need. So they won't listen to their body, or they'll deny the signals their body is giving them, or they'll tell you that you're wrong when you point that out to them, that they need to go. Then they might deny having had an accident, or deny, any element of it, because I think for children, one of the ways that their minds work is that if it didn't happen, if they don't believe it happens, then it just didn't happen. Or if they want it to go away and they wish hard enough that it would just disappear, then it will disappear. And actually, for some parents, that's also how they feel, like, well, we're just hoping they'll get over it.